Hi there. Thank you for joining me for another live here on YouTube. Hope you had a good Easter if you're in the UK or anywhere else that celebrates the Easter holidays. Some of you, I'm sure, will be back to work and others will be still off. I know my kids are off for quite a while yet, so some of us unfortunately have to keep the wheels rolling and keep working away whilst everyone is enjoying themselves. But yeah, so I wanted to just keep our wheels running here and get another live out. On this one, we're going to look at a case, and I'll throw it up on screen here now. This one, it does go over similar or appear on the surface to be quite similar to the last one that we actually discussed regarding a MEWP accident where a guy was unfortunately killed due to a collision. In this one, it isn't a fatality, but it's a severe, very severe, life changing injury. But there are some really interesting differences. It's very much contextually a different case to the other one. So let's look at the detail of it. Again, we'll keep this pretty high level. We'll do our three outcomes that I'll pick out in terms of things that I think we should try and remember and triggers that I picked up whilst looking at the case myself. I'll try not to go over the same ground that I did in the last one, of course. So as you can see on screen there, in this case, essentially what happened was there was a bit of work taking place in a large bakery factory, and the bit of work that was taking place was being done on a night shift. The employees that were involved were trying to conduct some high level cleaning, so essentially work at height using a mobile platform. And for those of you who aren't familiar with how those platforms might look, let me just grab an image for you. So this type of thing, this is pretty much almost exactly the type of equipment that they were using here, and you'll see an image shortly just to give you a bit more context because it was caught on CCTV. So what happened was, as the people were moving the MEWP around the site trying to get it into position to perform the work, one of the people in the injured party was a supervisor or the supervisor on the shift looking after the people doing the work at height. And this is where it sort of is a bit interesting in terms of what happened. So as that person was working, they were acting as a banksman to help guide the operator through the plant. And I'll show you the photo now just to give you an idea of what exactly happened here. It gives us a really good context as this was picked up on the CCTV cameras. So I'll just make that slightly smaller, but the quality isn't good, I'll grant you that. It was a very small photo on the article. However, you can see this was just literally moments before the collision with the lady. It was in this case that was hit by the MEWP. You can see here the operator is sort of looking to their right hand side to see if the path is clear. Unfortunately, this seems like quite a tight spot here that they're trying to maneuver the equipment in between. This is the person, the supervisor, the lady that was hit. As you can see, she just seems to be moving into the line of fire here, or into the path of the oncoming vehicle or piece of plant. And as that's happened, the operator hasn't seen her, and that's why he's came into contact with her. He's hit her on the leg, or the leg has become trapped, I imagine, by the wheel itself, and crushed. And unfortunately, in this case, as you may have already seen in the text that I showed earlier there, that the lady ended up having to get her leg amputated as a result. So the repercussions of that injury, I've been over it before in various different circumstances, but the case on the HSE website actually does give you a bit of a rundown as to what that lady has suffered since, and obviously it's quite horrific, and you can imagine just how bad that was. But in terms of what we learned from this, okay, evidently, if someone is maneuvering a bit of plant and you're acting as the banksman, you don't want to put yourself in the line of fire here. So what really has happened? So when the HSE investigation took place, they found a few things. As I say, I'm not going to try and reiterate the points that I made on the last case because there are similarities here. But the first thing that I want to pick up on, and I'll say it repeatedly, is that this, I would imagine, is non-standard work. And I've said it before here, a lot of the time when accidents happen, it's because you're doing something that's abnormal, non-standard, not frequently taking place within the facility or the environment that you're working in. And I would imagine this is the case for this one. They're doing high level cleaning. That type of thing doesn't happen on a daily basis, really. It might be done. Just kick the camera there. It might be done every now and again, but with that, obviously the risks become more pertinent because you're not looking at something that you're doing on a daily basis, improving. You haven't got a set sort of team maybe to perform that task and so on. So my point here is just if you're doing non-standard work, it becomes even more important to make sure you plan it properly. And that doesn't mean to say you need to sit down for half a day and write a chapter and verse on exactly how to go about the job. It's just that you need to get heads together, have a discussion on what you're actually doing, what the implications of what you're doing are, what the risks are, what is abnormal, what is different to what you would do on a daily basis, and make sure that all of that is taken into account. To be fair to this company, even though they were fined very heavily here, £400,000, they did have policies in place and training was in place to an extent. But the next point that I'll make here is really that the level of training and the personnel that they had in place didn't match up well enough. So and also it was a step away from what their policy was. So essentially what happened was the supervisor that was in place to do the banksman role, as you can see here, which was the lady who became the victim of the accident, she did not have, as it appears, any banksman training. That's coincidentally the last course that we released on safety.com. We do have it on here on YouTube as a free video if it is beneficial to you. If you're using people as banksmen and they haven't got training of any sort, it's really important that they pick up on the importance of that role and they do begin to understand the importance of effective communication, the use of hand signals and so on. And also, as well as that, a major part of this is making sure that you stay away from the plant or vehicles in a safe zone whilst the operator is operating it, and to ensure that they can see you. In this case, you can see clearly from the CCTV footage the piece of plant was being moved. The operator couldn't see the supervisor or the banks person, and ultimately they were hit. Now, we're not going to try and apportion blame here. This isn't the point. I'm just saying that it's important to make sure that those people are trained. Moreover, another thing that was picked up in the HSE investigation was that the actual company, and this is what I was alluding to at the start, they did have a policy of ensuring that anyone who was acting as a banksman for mobile platforms like this, their policy said that they should be MEWP trained themselves. So not only should they be banksman trained, they should be trained in the use of the platform that they're helping to guide. So that makes a lot of sense on paper, so they understand the movements and the characteristics of the equipment and so forth. In this case, it appears that the person who was contacted by the plant didn't have any of that training, either MEWP training or banksman training, and that was a big sort of omission here, I think, on the part of the company. Obviously it was outside of what their policy was as well. So going back to the first point, if they maybe had taken a bit more time to plan, look at their health and safety side of things, and think about, well, what is our policy with the use of MEWPs? They may have touched on this point and realised that, well, the person supervising or acting as banksman doesn't have the appropriate training, and that would be, the point of that, and hopefully would help you. But I think I've laboured enough on that one. So just to finish us off here, then, it's another point. It's kind of a bit more broad, and just something that I guess with conversations I was having with businesses last week that I picked up on, that still a lot of companies don't effectively utilize their near misses or even accidents that have happened previously in terms of making sure they get enough learning out of it, to ensure that worse accidents and more accidents happen in the future. And it's just a point to say, I don't know the context of this business, obviously, and I'm not pointing, fingers at this business, because they may have had a very thorough near miss investigation process. But what I'm saying is, the likelihood is that if this type of environment has vehicles, forklifts, pieces of plant that are moving around on a continual basis, then it's likely that there will be near misses happening on a relatively frequent basis. Whether they're reported or not is one thing. Another aspect is if they're actually followed up and investigated to a thorough enough degree. And my suggestion here is just to make sure that you are picking up on those in your operations and using those as learning points. And if you are doing that, it really does help to lessen the chances of something severe happening in the future, such as this. For instance, you would hope that if you were performing near miss investigations on, for example, forklifts that needed banksmen, that you would pick up that anyone that is performing the banksman role should have training. And that should be a simple policy. And in this case, that should have been picked up. Someone with adequate experience maybe wouldn't have put themselves in the line of fire, just as easily as the person in this case. And again, I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm just talking about giving your employees adequate training if you're giving them a role and responsibility that will put them at risk if they don't have the right information. So that's it for this one. Slightly different learning points from the last MEWP incident that we looked at. Obviously a very high level fine here for this quite large company, and a very serious and severe and life-changing injury for the affected person, which is horrible to see, of course, in any context. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Hopefully you're getting some benefit from these live broadcasts. And I just want to leave on a point to make you aware that we are, of course, pushing our free health and safety training at safety.com. If you haven't taken advantage of it, please do check it out. I'll leave some links, if I remember, at the bottom of this post, but you will see our website even just in the bottom corner here. You can see the safety.com address if you want to check it out. There's lots of free stuff, and we have just re-released, to let you know, our risk assessment training course. Again, it had been something you needed to pay for in the last year or two. We've actually republished it as a free course now. So, because risk assessment just keeps coming up over and over again as a key issue, particularly in these HSE investigations. And we want to help you be able to do that properly. And hopefully you can take advantage of that resource if you want to train people in-house, or otherwise. Maybe even you want to take it yourself. So we'll leave a link to that as well. Okay, that's it for this one. We look forward to seeing